Hi everybody, and welcome to the Trailer Park Prophet Show. My name is Daniel Gray. I am the Trailer Park Prophet du jour, broadcasting live from beautiful, overcast Crestone, Colorado on Blog Talk Radio. This is Hump Day with the Prophet. Alright, I'm trying to think where I want to start. There's just so much going on in this world right now that it's almost impossible to get a handle on what's most important. I mean, there's just tons of stuff that are going on in this world right now that we're privy to, like we never have been before in the history of mankind. And just looking at my Facebook page, I have something like 700 friends, and most of them are very political, and so we're always exchanging articles and looking at different reports from all over the world about almost everything. And it's just a real miracle that we live in this information age where we can have so much information available to us. And I'm sure you've heard this before, that information is power, and it really is, because if you're able to form your opinions and your beliefs on good information, credible information, and there's a lot of good credible information out there. I mean, you can have opinions and knowledge on stuff that's going on all over the world. Now, I guess I'll start off with this first story. Now, this is from the Drudge Report, and the headline is "Fire Hoses Turned on Obama Supporters." And evidently, right now in the Philippines as we speak, in case you don't know, our president is embarked on a foreign mission. And I got to tell you, I'm not really sure where he's going on this trip. I can't remember. I mean, he was just in Europe. And, oh, you know what I was just thinking? Is this the trip where the president is going to go back to Israel, and then also, that was another trip. He was going to go and talk to the Arab Emirates. He was going to talk to the Arab League. He was going to stop in Saudi Arabia, and then he was going to stop by Jerusalem. Now, I don't know if this is the same trip or not. That's funny, you know, I forgot all about that trip. But now the president is going to be in the Philippines, and I think this is a separate trip. And there's Obama protesters in the Philippines, and it shows them here getting blasted with the fireman's hose. So they don't want the protesters in the Philippines to disrupt the president's speech or trip, I guess. And it says here, police armed with trecherons, I don't even know what that is, shields in a fire hose clashed with more than 100 left-wing activists who rallied at the U.S. Embassy in Manila on Wednesday to oppose a visit by President Barack Obama and his expected security pact that would increase the American military presence in the Philippines. So, I mean, I can kind of see that, and I see the signs here of these protesters, these Filipinos, and one of their signs says, "U.S. troops out of the Philippines. Obama, you're not welcome in the Philippines," is another sign. And this one says, "No to de facto," okay, I can't make that one out. But says here, Obama, who landed in Japan on Wednesday, is due to visit South Korea, Malaysia, and the Philippines over the next 5 days as part of a wider attempt to rebalance and pivot towards Asia. Okay, here's what's blowing my mind. I don't remember any report about the rest of the last Obama trip. Remember, he went to Europe, and then he was supposed to stop in Saudi Arabia and then Israel. God, I can't remember anything of that trip. That's amazing that no one would write about it, or I just missed it. Maybe I just missed it. All right. Let's see. Oh, in the news today, in case we don't get to this story, Japan, as I've mentioned before, is in a dispute over these islands. And the president did say in his speech today that we were going to back Japan over China over these disputed islands. And I don't know who I was listening to. They were making comment, well, do you think the Chinese really think Obama is nothing more than a paper suit? And I don't think so. And China's got to be very worried. I mean, they want these islands. Or Japan's got to be really worried. They want those islands. And I can't imagine that China is very much afraid of Obama, who, like I said today, said that we're allies with Japan. He said, I understand these islands are disputed, but we're behind Japan 100%. He did say that today. I saw a report on that. Let's see, moving on. Shows some pictures here of the demonstrators in the Philippines holding hands. They seem rather peaceful, but kind of interesting that there's anti-Obama supporters getting hosed down by the Filipino government. You know, it just occurred to me. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more demonstrations of Obama during this election cycle. I have a feeling that more and more people out there are upset with Obamacare, upset with President Obama, and I think we're going to see a lot more demonstrations, anti-Obama demonstrations in this country. All right, let's see. You want to do... Oh, wait, you know, I think I have a lot of videos today. I got some really good stuff that we can listen to, so I think that'll be kind of fun. I was going to... Let's go to Drudge, all right? Let's do that. I want to go to Drudge real quick. I just thought of Drudge. Now I'm excited. I want to go there, see if there's any breaking news. The Drudge Report. I mean, Drudge is really quite a source. I mean, what an idea. I wish I could have thought of that. Instead of writing your own articles, producing your own content, why not just be sort of a clearinghouse for other writers? And oh my God, it's just a huge success. Drudge is big news. We have this story. Middle class, world's richest no more. America is no longer the most richest middle class. We had that distinction. We'll look into this article. I bet we're still the biggest middle class, but maybe not. Maybe we've been beat out by China or India. Man, that's a scary thought. Well, here, let's look into this story. This is the lead story on the Drudge headlines. And this comes from the Upshot. Now, I've seen this all over the internet, so this is a story that's out there. But I don't know that the lamestream media is picking up on this, because if this is the case, and it's done per capita, meaning an average, that the USA, America, middle class is no longer the world's richest, man, that's a bad sign for Obama economy, Obamonomics. Okay, this story is written by David Linenhart and Kevin Queenie. I don't know how to pronounce that. It says, the American middle class, long the most affluent in the world, has lost that distinction, while the wealthiest Americans are outpacing many of their global peers. The New York Times analyst shows that across the lower middle class tiers, citizens of other advanced countries have received considerably larger raises over the last 3 decades. And you know, I was talking to my friend Steve Storm. He's an accomplished carpenter, and carpenters, a lead carpenter has been making $25 an hour since the 50s, and that's all a good carpenter can get now is $25 an hour. The numbers are based on surveys conducted over the past 35 years, offer some of the most detailed publicly available comparisons for different income groups in different countries over time. They suggest that most American families are paying a steep price for high and rising income inequality. Oh, I don't believe that. What's killing the middle class is there's lack of jobs, lack of pay increases, A lot of competition from foreign workers. I mean, that's kind of in large part what ruined the landscaping business. Well, one, rich people aren't doing anything on their property anymore. They're holding on to their money. And the two is that a lot of people use illegal immigrants to do a lot of their landscaping and other kind of skills like carpentry, like anything in construction. And I was arguing to my friend Steve Storm today that part of the reason that in the trades we can't make more money is because illegal immigrants are driving the cost of labor down. And, you know, he really scoffed at that. But I did get him to admit that that's a component part why you can't make any money in the trades. Let's see, what else do we have here? It says, although economic growth in the United States continues to be as strong as in many other countries or stronger, a small percentage of the American households is fully benefiting from it. Medium income in Canada pulled to within a tie of medium income in 2010 and was most likely surpassed it since then. Medium incomes in Western European countries still trail those in the United States, but the gap in several, including Britain, Netherlands, and Sweden, is much smaller than it was a decade ago. Well, anyway, that's from the New York Times, that we're no longer the richest middle class. And, you know, I heard a story, I think it was yesterday, that said that now there's a new trend of baby boomers, people like me, who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, are now moving in with their parents. You know, we always talk about how the millennials are going to college, can't find work, and moving back home with mom and dad. Well, now mom and dad are moving back in with grandpa and grandma. So that's another economic trend that's not a good one, needless to say. All right, let's see what else is going on with Drudge. Texas warns feds eyeing land grabs, stay out. All kinds of stories breaking out all over America about similar things happening in their own state that happened in Nevada with the Bundys at Bunkerville, where the BLM and the FBI was trying to take the Bundy's ranch. Now there's stories all over the country about similar situations with federal agencies trying to take land away from landowners. And here's Texas warns feds eyeing land grab, stay out. The Burning Man organizer plans a 30-day of anarchy next to the ranch. I wonder what that's about. You know about Burning Man, right? They have this big get-together. It's out in the desert. I think it's in New Mexico or Nevada. I can't remember where it is. I want to go one time in my life. And let's see what they have to say about Burning Man. Oh, something's wrong with this story that I didn't post. Well, at any rate, that's probably all we need to know about Burning Man. Maybe. Let me see if it's here. I don't see it. Alright. Well, I clicked on the Burning Man, but I didn't get that story. Oh, wait. No, here it is. I got it. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm wrong. Excuse me. This is from the Washington Times. Rancher Calvin Bundy, who I just mentioned, standoff with the Bureau of Land Management, has prompted a nationwide debate over whether the elderly Nevada cattlemen... Oh, my God. What's going on here? They just closed. Let me get into this story. Alright, Mr. Bunny owes more than $1 million in back grazing fees, but he contends that the federal government's rules are increasingly rigid against Westerners who have long made their living off the public lands. But I don't see, where is the... Oh, Sheenley, an organizer of the annual Burning Man Festival in Nevada, said that the Bundy Fest event will start September 5th and feature more than 250 bands Raw Story reported. So they're going to have an actual Bundy Fest. The guy, one of the organizers, puts on the Burning Man. That means that's serious. The event appears to blatantly mock the defiant rancher who was engaged in a long-term battle with the BLM over unpaid federal grazing fees. Oh, so they're going to make fun of the Bundys. For years, we paid permitting fees to hold Burning Man on the beautiful playa in northern Nevada, reads the Bundy Fest. But now, Kelvin Bundy has shown us a new way, absolute freedom. Bundy has declared the entire area surrounding the Bundy Ranch as a totally rules-free zone. Anything goes. Woohoo! Others have called Mr. Bundy everything from a scaffold to a deadbeat. And of course, Harry Reid called him a terrorist, saying he lost his battle in court and needs to pay his bill or get out. So they're actually in support of the government, which is kind of interesting. See, maybe Glenn Beck's right. Maybe they ought to be careful in jumping on this Bundy Ranch there at Bunkerville. So here's another indication that maybe the deal in Bunkerville with the Bundys isn't all on the up and up. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you want to be on the show, you can do so. Dial 646-716-8506. Again, 646-716-8506. Okay, next story. Excuse me. Oh, yeah, here's another story that doesn't bode well for the Obama economy. Now it's not going to post. Alright, hang on a second. Let me see if I can get this story to post, because this is kind of an important story, I think. It's from townhall.com, which we use a lot here on the Trailer Park Prophet, and we find it to be quite credible. Article here by Katie Pavlich. Obama's America, temporary jobs become permanent. Earlier this week, the Los Angeles Times ran a story about 50 and 60-year-old adults being forced to move back in with their parents in order to survive Obama's economy. So there's another story on the actual parents moving in with the grandparents. Here's a saying from George Washington in 1776. The time is now near at hand which must determine whether Americans are to be free men or slaves. The time is now near at hand which must determine whether Americans are to be free men or slaves. George Washington. Okay, hopefully this will post, because here's a video. And this is from Western Journalism, which I really like. And the headline here is, guess what this Democrat just admitted about Obamacare isn't pretty. Now this guy, he's a U.S. congressman. His name is Stephen Lynch. He's from Massachusetts, and he was on the radio recently, and he conceded that millions of Obamacare opponents already realized, while there is already plenty for critics to complain about, he noted that future mandates will only take the health care law less sustainable and more unpopular. Now remember, all of the 13 major delays in Obamacare, the employer mandate, the employee mandate, that's all been extended. And that's the bulk of Obamacare. And once that's finally implemented and not extended again, I mean, people are going to be hotter than hell. I mean, after the 2014 elections, Obamacare really is going to kick in. And oh my God, I mean, this congressman's exactly right. There's going to be hell to pay. So here he is. Again, Massachusetts Representative Democrat Stephen Lynch. Take it away, Congressman.
There are parts of Obamacare that, or the Affordable Care Act, that have been postponed because they are unpalatable. So as these provisions come into effect, the administration thus far is saying, we really can't handle this right now, so we're going to delay it. These obligations keep piling up. The mandatory, registration, the penalties, it's going to hit the fan. Because, anybody, any individual with an individual health care plan that exceeds $10,200 is in a Cadillac plan situation. They're going to have to pay that employer, if they provide that, and many do today, never mind in 2018, will have to pay a 40% tax on the amount over the minimum established, the maximum established under the Affordable Care Act. So that's a huge tax. It'll be the first time in this country's history that we have actually taxed health care. We used to treat it like food, that people would die without it. Don't tax that. Well, we're in a new day now. I think it would be impossible for a repeal right now because you've taken on 31 million new people. You're trying to provide health care to them. That's a good thing. The problem has always been paying for it. You've got to rely on the other individuals who already have health care to pay for that, and at the same time, you've made a promise to those individuals, that 270 million people that already had health care, that your health care will either be the same or will be improved by this. And I think that's a very tough promise to live up to under this system.
Yeah, which means he would prefer having a single payer or socialized medicine. And, I forgot all about the Cadillac tax. That's a big part of the funding mechanism for Obamacare. And in case you forgot, the Obamacare Cadillac tax is on healthcare plans that are Cadillac plans. They're the best. They're Mercedes plans, if you want to put it that way. And he said, a 30% tax. And that's unreal. When you really think about it, they're putting a tax on healthcare to pay for healthcare. And there's a bunch of tax. Like the taxes on medical devices. That's driving a lot of the medical device companies off our shore. And those jobs are gone. God, there's tax on suntan beds in Obamacare. In fact, I had a story. I was going to do it one time, and it cataloged some 35 brand new taxes to pay for Obamacare. And people are going to start to see these taxes show up on their paycheck or their pay stub or on the computer, however they get their pay. I mean, people are going to start seeing Obamacare taxes. And then the other thing people are doing too, which I think is pretty smart, I've seen this in restaurants, that they're putting on the Obamacare tax right onto your ticket, right on your receipt. It'll say right there, there's everything you ordered, everything you drank, and your tip, and also in the bill is Obamacare tax. And the owners of these restaurants and various businesses, they're so cost conscious that they want to put the blame squarely where it ought to be, on the Obama administration. So they put it right there on your receipt. The cost for this little business person to provide health care for his employees that meets the high, lofty Obamacare standards is going to cost a hell of a lot of money, and they got to pay for it some way. And if they just raise the prices, then everyone in the restaurant's going to think, you're just gouging us. So these business people are looking at their Obamacare bill and they're saying, wow, this is substantial. This isn't just a little percentage increase in the cost of lettuce. This is a big whopping bill I got to pay. And I don't want my customers thinking I'm gouging them. So I'm going to reference it on the ticket. And it's only the beginning. I'm telling you, man, Obamacare is going to turn this country upside down. And I don't see any way that the Republicans don't take the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives. And I got a feeling that the Republicans are going to win everything across the board during this 2014 election. and I think we're going to definitely elect a Republican president in 2016. Hopefully it's not a moderate. I mean, and that's how you can see that the Democrats are really worried about the 2014 and the 2016 election, because they're already trying to get the Republicans to nominate a rhino, Republican in name only. They want the Republicans to nominate Jeb Bush, or they want Chris Christie, and I mean, they're adamant about the Republicans selecting a moderate, and I think they know that 2016 belongs to the Republican Party, and they don't want to see a Ted Cruz. They don't want to see a conservative ideologue like the liberal ideologue they have in the White House right now. And I think all their internal polling is showing them that the Democratic Party is in huge trouble. And the best thing they can do to keep Obamacare and all of their social welfare programs and over-the-top spending in place is to get a moderate elected to the White House. Let's see here. A bunch of stuff I was really interested in today about Obamacare. I don't know if I can get this to post. This is from the Heritage Foundation, and it says, all I can get as a headline, says the new Obamacare lawsuit. What is it this time? And it says, with so many pages of rules, regulations, taxes, and more, it's no wonder that these pop up. So somebody, let me get this to, this looks like a good story. So the lawsuit has to do with all the rules and regulations. Now remember, I'm sorry I have to remind you, but we have so many new listeners, I got to repeat myself, because some of these points that I make, you got to know. You know, they're like your foundation of knowledge that you have to understand what in the world is going on out there with Obamacare and other things in our country. And one thing, the thing you need to know about Obamacare, remember, it created 139 brand new federal agencies. 139. And they're nothing more than agencies that are going to promulgate rules and regulations that all of the healthcare providers are going to have to adhere to. And I've seen pictures of stacks of regulations that have been promulgated by these 139 brand new Obamacare government agencies, and there's something like 35 feet tall. And I'm sure that's what this story is about on the Heritage Foundation blog. If I get it to post, we'll kind of wade into it a little bit. And it shouldn't come as any surprise that they would be. But I mean, I don't know, how are they going to take the federal government to court for passing too many rules and regulations? I mean, can you take the federal government to court because they're incompetent? I don't know. I wish we could find out more about that story, or I wish I had read it, but you know what? I was a busy little beaver this morning and I didn't get around to it. I got to clean up my tabs up here. Maybe that's keeping me from getting these stories to post. Oh my God, we got to break and do this. Brand new Zoe Nation. God, I'm so glad I saw this. And the headline here is Attorney Seeks Police, or 6 Police on Zoe at Dem Lawmaker Meet and Greet. Now, in case you've forgotten, I love this guy. He's a black conservative. His name is Alfonso Mourning, and he has his own webpage called Zoe Nation. And it says here that Zoe peacefully attends his California Assemblyman's meet and greet, only to get harassed by a woman attorney attendee who actually sicks the cops on him. Meanwhile, Democrat Al Murtachi shows his true hypocritical self. Just another example of how liberals are, like Al, are not tolerant of things, but want to make it a law for others to be tolerant of the things they wouldn't tolerate. All right, here's Zonation. Come on, buddy. See if this will... Come on, man. Okay, maybe if I get some more of this other crap out of here, that might be helpful. Otherwise, I'm going to be bummed out if we can't get a little Zonation. Maybe what I should do is, sometimes it takes a while for these things to download, or there's a word for that, these videos, but maybe, wait, no. No, it's trying. Maybe I'll give it the Alt 5 here again. Alright, maybe that's not going to work. Alright, we'll do another story while that's getting ready. Okay. Oh, yeah. This guy, Showbat. Showbat.com. Shoebat.com. Shoebat.com. This individual was involved with the Muslim Brotherhood, and he has his own website. And if you really want to know about what the Muslim Brotherhood is all about, you want to check out shoebat.com. But he's got a story here. Leaked video reveals how life really is under Islam. And he goes on to say Obama does not want you to see this. And I got to tell you, there are at least 3 or 4 stories that I find a day on my little lonely Facebook page about one or another Muslim atrocities. Either it's these little girls being wed off to these middle-aged men, or little girls getting raped, or people getting beheaded and having their head wound up on a stake, or their bodies being drug around the town. I mean, there's all these, like this story here. Islamic teacher who repeatedly abused girl 11 as he taught her the Quran has been spared jail because he's on benefits and his wife doesn't speak English. I mean, there's all these stories like that in the U.S. where Muslims are saying, hey, we don't adhere to your law, we adhere to Sharia law, and our court system is taking second seat to Sharia law in other instances. Now this story here, I'm trying to get it to post. This was just put up there today. Let me see if I can get on the story. I'm not going to bother with it. I mean, you can check it out. Let me see. It's on BritainFirst.org if you want to see, or go. Actually, you can go to my Facebook page, check it out. But again, Islamic teacher who sexually abused girl 11 as he taught her the Quran has been spared jail because he's on benefits, meaning he's getting welfare. And if he went to jail, he wouldn't get his benefits anymore. I mean, this is insanity. He should be deported. Sexually abused 11-year-old girl. Do you see how crazy things are getting? And he doesn't have to go to jail because he's on welfare and his wife doesn't speak English. And that's the other thing too. You're not supposed to be in this country if you don't speak English. That's part of your citizenship. God damn. I mean, this is unbelievable. We are headed the wrong direction. Okay. Another story from Town Hall by Byron York. Susan Moles writes here that when President Obama announced recently that 8 million people have signed up for coverage through the exchanges, that means perhaps 6.5 million have actually paid for it, and only some of them receive taxpayer-paid subsidies. In late March, the Kaiser Family Foundation estimated that 3.5 million people have qualified for a total of $10 billion in annual premium subsidies, or an average of about $2,890 per person. And where's that money going to come from? See, I mean, here is an example of the cost of Obamacare are going up because of all, and it's designed to do this. The reason the premiums are so high is because the actual Obamacare plans include so much stuff that people don't need, and it really does include maternal care for men and birth control for men. I mean, stuff like that. Mental health care, that cost is in there. Don't forget that. That's in there. And then all of the free testing, all those costs are in there. I mean, this is a nightmare. But this article written by Byron York says when it comes to the politics of Obamacare, there's really only one question that matters: how many Americans are benefiting from the new healthcare system and how many are hurting. And, you know, he's suggesting that Obamacare is hurting more people than it's helping, which I have a feeling is really the case. And the only reports we do get are on the internet. I mean, I don't really know of anyone with the reach of one of the lamestream media to go out and really do a comprehensive journalistic, scientific, sociologic study of the effects of Obamacare yet. You know, it hasn't happened. And no one reports on it because they're lying by omission. Everyone in the media wants you to think that everything's just Joe Cool with Obamacare, and I don't think it is. And the media, the lamestream media, the legacy media, the drive-by media, the lamestream media, they're lying to the people by omission, because if this was a program rolled out by George Bush, we would have non-stop 24/7 coverage of people who were affected negatively by any Bush program, but they're not doing that with Obamacare. So, you know what? It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to get Zoe Nation. I'm so bummed out. And I got to turn on my fan on my computer. Come on, Zoe, buddy. Alright, we got to kill Zoe, I guess. I'm bummed, but I have something here. Hopefully this will play. I've been wanting to listen to this. This is a video of a Indian. And he's talking about the Kelvin Bundy deal in Nevada. Now this just might work here. One of the things he says, I was taught to unite all people by my aunt and uncle in another channel they are going to use in the future. Oh, okay, here we go.
Hi everybody, I'm trying to block myself from the rain. This actually has to do with Native Americans and what's going on in Nevada. Guys, girls, sisters, bros, I've seen some nasty comments. Oh, wow. And you always wanted to unify. Get each other together. Wow. You don't like the government. You don't like the Department of Interior. And this is not over a tortoise. The only thing that's hurting the tortoise is an invasive plant that's came in there. So I would like to ask Native American Danae, go support this farmer, this rancher. I mean, if you extend an olive branch, wow, look what could happen. The reason I'm doing this is because it needs to be done. It's time. It's time to reach out. It's time. You can't sit idle. No one can. This is to all Americans. The government is the problem. We could all learn to live together in peace. Now imagine if this last rancher gets taken off his land. I'm sure the mines will come in there and poison more of the land. I love the environment. I protect the environment. I'm not mental on it because the environmentalists are you guys know this. They're sponsored by the government. Environmentalist, mental, key word there. Protecting the environment is one thing, and I am a protector of the environment. But this ranger hasn't done anything wrong. You want to extend the olive branch? You go show them how to protest. Block them damn roads. Go, do ceremonies, show them how it's done. You have hundreds of years of experience doing this. You could show something positive. I'm serious. So I'm calling upon my brothers and sisters to do this from the native nations. And for the rest, if you do see nations come out there to support you, please welcome them. They actually know how to block trucks in the road, and they're not scared of the BLM or the Department of Interior. And if it means going to jail, they go to jail in almost all their protests. But if they were to do this, I would ask in return that when they have a problem near your area, you go and do the same for them. And let's unite against this federal corporate takeover where every resource, everything the government wants is a resource for a corporation. It's not for any human being on this planet. So let's stick together. I'm serious. I'm under a tree because it's raining. I don't want my camera wet. But I'm serious. It's time. You've always wanted to unite. Here's a stand. You're in that area. Go do it. I saw a comment by somebody that laughed and said, ha, 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 this is what they did to the Native Americans. Well, that is just the most disrespectful thing I've ever heard, because as indigenous peoples, we've always tried to help. So I'm very confused on what that motive and tactic was. This is the chance to unite all peoples. And that's all I'm asking. We could all do this together and stop the government and let that land be all of ours. I'm serious. A tortoise and an invasive weed doesn't mean that cattle who graze freely, just like a lot of sheep and goats and everything else,
deers and elks,
this is no reason to divide. It's time to unite. Yate. And I love everyone. Remember, we're all human beings. Go show them how to do this and block the roads. Go show them how fearless warriors act, how they stop things in their track. Look what the Nez Perce and Lakota are doing with help from other peoples. Go help them. Thank you.
You know,
last year, the Bureau of Land Management came in and confiscated over 500 head of horses and took over 200 head of cattle from their land.
I have a right to protect my life.
You know, this Native American woman made a lot of really good points. And I didn't review this video, and I thought probably it'd be exactly the opposite, that they would be in favor of the government takeover. But obviously this woman kind of schooled me. But it reminds me, I meant to do this one story, and I'm pretty sure it's true, but the Native Americans had a get-together, and President Obama attended, and they called him Walking Eagle. These Native Americans gave Obama the title Walking Eagle. And at the end of this presentation, an interviewer went and talked to one of the Native American organizers and said, well, why did you call President Obama Walking Eagle? And the Indian responded to the reporter, because when Obama's full of so much shit that he can't fly, Walking Eagle. You can Google it and see what you think. But the other thing this woman said, I was really amazed. I mean, she said, well, look, you know, we know how to demonstrate. And basically she's saying we know right from wrong, and we understand when there's an abusive government. And she's saying we know how to demonstrate. We understand that you're going to get arrested and have to serve time, and you need to get out there and help your neighbors. And you got to get involved. You got to take the government on. You need to block the roads. And this is the same thing that's going on in Gunnison. And yet the progressive socialist Chris Dickey, the editor of the Gunnison Country Times, you know, he always disparages the people out there in Gunnison that want to keep the roads open. They get ridiculed by the Gunnison Country Times. And yet, you know, you look at this Native American woman and she's saying, you know, look, you got to block them roads. You got to tell these government officials, man, we're here. We're going to stand our ground. And she's absolutely right. You know, I see what she's saying. That if people don't stand up to the government, they're going to continue just rolling right over us. And who was it said that, you know, freedom discounted anywhere is freedom gone everywhere. So anywhere we lose freedom, whether it's in Honduras or if it's in Japan or China or Russia, that's freedom lost everywhere. We're all in this together as human beings. I mean, this whole idea that we've been talking about, you know, the difference between capitalism and socialism and communism and fascism, it all boils down to how much government do you want in your lives? How much government is too much government? And if you're working half the year, which a lot of people are, to pay their share of taxes, then how much is too much? Because the answer for every one of the ills of humanity for Democrats is more government, more government, more government. And don't forget, Obama increased the baseline of our federal government by 24%. And see, the other thing she said too, oh God, I'm so glad we listened to this video because she made a very important point. She said the environmentalist, and she goes, the operative word mental, I thought that was really funny, that the environmentalists are supported by the government. And at first blush, I thought of that and I said, no. And then I got to thinking about it. My old organic computer started thinking about that, and she's right. You think of all of these environmental groups, whether it's the group up in Crested Butte that I've talked about, HICA, High Country Citizens Alliance, that gets all of their money from out-of-state concerns or just a few people. They're all 501c, so they don't pay any taxes, and whoever pays into these 501c environmental groups, they get a tax deduction. You know, they get a tax benefit for giving to these environmental groups. You know, whether it's the Sahara Club or Ducks Unlimited or any number, there's probably thousands of environmental groups, and they're basically living off of you and I. They don't pay taxes on the money they receive. The people that give them the money get a special tax benefit. That means all of that tax money has to come from somebody else, and it's either coming from the private sector, you and me, or this government's borrowing more and more money or printing that money. So this woman makes an excellent point that the environmentalists are supported by the government, like the BLM and other federal government agencies that are taking the land away from the people. So next time you think of environmentalists, think of fascists. They're basically statists. They're working for the government. They're supported by the government. That was this woman's point, and I think that's a huge point. That's a very important point. I'm glad I now have that in my mind because it really gives you a more clear perspective of who the environmentalists are. You know, I mean, we're always led to believe that these environmentalists are merely grassroots kind of individuals, neighborhood, community organizers, you know, but they're not. They're big, huge, multi-corporation entities. I mean, you think about, imagine big groups like the Sahara Club, they're probably incorporated. Because remember, she made that one remark that environmentalists are nothing more than corporations that want the minerals and other resources for some other good, like the Bundy Ranch. Remember, the accusation is that the Bundy Ranch, that it was actually Senator Reid from Nevada who wanted control of that land the Bundys were controlling to turn over to the Chinese to put in a solar farm. And we may find out that's not true, but that's the accusation, and it's out there everywhere. But, I mean, it's exactly what this woman's saying. They want to take an asset from a private person or one person and give it to another. Another corporation, you know? So what? I mean, he's $1 million back on his fees, but $1 million is chump change. I mean, what's the real issue here? You know, there's just so much to consider. And that's what I was saying in the beginning of the program. I mean, there's so much of these intertwined stories out there going on in the U.S. and across the world. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And it's like, you know, it's like it's intended almost to keep us somehow diverted from what we really should have our mind on. And, you know, I hope here at the Trailer Park Prophet what we do is have our mind on the right thing. I know you only have so much time, and of course I'm thrilled that you spend all this time with the Trailer Park Prophet. But still, you know, I mean, there's only so much information you can take on. All right, hey, moving on. IRS workers who didn't pay taxes got bonuses. There's stories like this all the time. USAtoday.com, the Internal Revenue Service handed out $2.8 million in bonuses to employees with disciplinary issues, including more than $1 million to employees who didn't pay their federal taxes. So they get bonuses. I mean, I still can't get my mind around government employees getting bonuses. That, in my mind, is ridiculous. Unless they have a clear way for pay for performance, but, you know, even at that, I mean, those who can do, those who can't teach or are in government. And I'm telling you, this story, I've done maybe 5 stories like this of government employees not paying their taxes. And the overall bill across the whole federal government, if I remember correctly, well, I know it was in the billions. I was trying to think if it was $5 billion, $10 billion, $15 billion that federal employees owe the federal government. That should be grounds for dismissal. I mean, that's tantamount to treason. I mean, you're working for the federal government and you don't pay your taxes, you should be fired. And like I said on Monday, the average worker, I got this from USA Today, in the private sector makes $46,000 a year. The average worker in government makes $78,000. And then they don't pay their taxes. And I did a story 2 years ago about the Obama administration. I mean, they were lacking like $4.5 million of taxes unpaid in the Obama White House. I mean, if I was president of the United States, and I bet if you were president of the United States, you would sit down with your chief of staff and say, I never want to see this story again about my employees in the White House not paying their taxes. And you tell those people right now that if they don't pay their taxes in the week, then to pack up their desk. I wouldn't stand for that. And if I was the President of the United States, I'd say, listen, and also while you're at it, Mr. Chief of Staff or Madam Chief of Staff, I want the same thing to apply to every level of federal government. You work for the federal government and don't pay your taxes, you're out of here. God, I mean, that just totally blows my mind. Now, let's see, maybe, Michelle Obama declares that naps are more important than church. A story in the westernjournalism.com. and I wish I could get this to post, because I guess she's being all ghetto, said we would be lounging and napping. And, you know, and it makes you wonder if there's anything to that story that Michelle Obama has gone off the rails and Barack Obama can't control her anymore. Because there was another story I saw earlier. Oh, what was it Michelle Obama said? And it was really inappropriate. I mean, she's becoming inappropriate and very un-first lady-like. Which means she's just not a sophisticated person. I've said that from the beginning. That Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, they're not very sophisticated people. And you know, they've been on the job now for 6 years, and they're probably getting tired, and they're not being careful with their words and actions. You know, they've been on the front stage for so long. I mean, they don't have their guard up, and they're making mistakes. Oh, okay. Let's see. Oh, this is a good story. And again, just all kinds of stuff about Obamacare. And again, you can go and check this out on my Facebook page, Daniel Gray or Trailer Park Prophet. And let's see, this story comes from SHTFPLAN. Headline, Obamacare success. Half of Georgia's insurance enrollees fail to make monthly payments. And again, this is from, what did I say it was from? This is Western Journalism. This is a good source. And here's a little excerpt. It says, Obamacare success. Half of Georgia's insurance enrollees fail to make monthly payments. The Obama administration has stated unequivocally that the debate concerning whether or not the Patient Affordable Care Act has been a success is over. They've won the argument, and it's evidenced by the tens of thousands of Americans who have signed up for Obamacare on the exchanges across the country. Here's a small glimpse into just how successful Obamacare has been. In Georgia, where some 650,000 people are eligible for subsidies, only about 220,000 applicants have thus far been received. So to start, we're about 70% short on the original estimated sign-up rate. And then, and if Georgia is comparable to other states, the people that did sign up, the majority were people that had pre-existing conditions, or they actually just went on to Medicaid. So it's not even as good as it sounds. I mean, where they sign up is almost as important as anything else, because if they're in Obamacare in one of the state exchanges and paying money, that's a good thing, but most of them aren't. Georgia's insurers received more than 220 applications for health coverage in the Affordable Care Act's exchange as of the official federal deadline of March 31st. State officials said Wednesday. Insurance Commissioner Ralph Hudgens, though, said premiums have been received for only 107,000 of those policies, which cover about 149,000 people. Many Georgians completed the application process by the deadline, but have yet to receive or have yet to pay for the coverage. Hudgens said in a statement Wednesday, Obamacare is apparently so affordable that even people receiving massive discounts on their plans via government subsidization can't make their payments. I mean, that's incredible. And remember, I mean, Obama promised that if Obamacare passed, that families would see a $2,500 reduction in their yearly health care premium. And obviously that's not the case here, because even just making the regular payment for one of these policies from a state Obamacare exchange is more than what they were paying in the past. And that you know, the actual subsidy doesn't even help them. They can't even make the portion they're responsible for it so high. I mean, that's, if you read between the lines, that's what this story's telling you. I mean, this Obamacare, I'm telling you, it's an abomination. Another story about illegal immigrants, 13 years old, raped by illegal immigrants. They film it and cheer. If you want to look into this story, you can go to the uspatriot.com. But evidently these animals, and there was, I think there were a dozen of them. I believe this was in Florida. They videotaped the whole damn thing. They raped this, they take turns raping this 13-year-old girl. More, oh no, nearly a dozen Latino men in Texas are being accused. So there was a dozen men involved. It was Texas, not Florida, excuse me. But there's stories like this out of Florida. That's how we got a little confused. They're in California, Mexico, Colorado. Hell, they're in Gunnison. There's 2 rapists, I mentioned this before, 2 rapists in Gunnison, which is a town of 6,000, and in jail right now are 2 illegal alien men, Mexicans, who are in there for raping underage girls in Gunnison. So I'll bet you anything this is the case all over the United States, and that's why I think if you're incarcerated in jail, we ought to be able to go online of any jail and see who the hell is in there and what they're there for and whether or not they're illegal aliens, for Christ's sake. But if you called Gunnison or you called Saguache and you said, hey, you know, this is Joe Public and I want to get some basic information. How many inmates you got? Who's in there? What are they in there for? You would be met with a very rude public employee. In fact, I would almost guarantee you in most instances you would get a visit, a personal visit at your house by a sheriff wanting to know how come you want to know so much about what they do there down at the jail. That's how shitty a lot of these public employees will get with you. Indignant. I don't know why I'm swearing. I was swearing on Monday, and I've been saying goddamn. And I actually said it today in front of one of my friends, and he called me on it. But he's old. Okay, let's see here. We did that story already. Oh, here's another Michelle Obama story. You may have heard about it. This was in the Washington Examiner. And it was also on the AP. Michelle Obama said, splurging is the key to life. If you regularly eat right and stay active, her biggest guilty pleasure is French fries. I mean, splurging? I mean, I guess that's true, and she's trying to be hip and relevant and approachable. But I just think she's being inappropriate and too hip. There's a point at which being too cool is not cool. If you're being cool for the sake of cool, then, you know, it's just not much of a message from our First Lady. But if this was just one example, I'd feel different. But, you know, I remember when she was in China and she was on stage and she was doing something with one of her you know, Let's Get Active, one of her, you know, Let's Exercise programs, and she's on stage and she's squatting in front of these Chinese teenagers, these boys. She's squatting, her legs are spread right at eye level with these boys, you know, I mean, bad visual and bad decision making. And I think she probably has a lot of bad people around her. You know, if you're kind of a doofus, chances are you're going to hire doofuses. You know, I would have never allowed the First Lady to get in a position to be on a stage in China doing crotch shots to teenagers. God. How do you get that dumb? Oh, here's another story from Alabama. Oh, no, this is from Alabama. We were talking about Georgia. And this comes from the Christine Roselli. 4 counties in Alabama have more registered voters than adult residents. How can that be? And again, this is, yeah, that's awkward. And this is in, again, on Town Hall. I can't get any of these stories to post, so we can't, like, get into them. Here's a picture of some Tea Partiers, and I agree with this. This old guy's holding up a sign, and it says, "All I need to know about Islam I learned on 9/11. Amen, brother." All right, I should identify myself. My name's Daniel Gray. I'm the Trailer Park Prophet, broadcasting live from beautiful, overcast Crestone, Colorado. This is Hump Day with the Prophet. Yours truly. Okay, here, yeah, see, not a good story. U.S. releases another $1 billion to Iran. Iran has received $1.55 billion since February. This is from the Free Beacon. The United States has released another $1 billion in cash assets to Iran in April alone under the interim nuclear deal aimed at ratcheting back the economic sanctions that are on Iran because of their nuclear bomb program. And I'm here looking in my plastic crystal ball, and I can clearly see that the Iranians have not slowed down their nuclear arms program. And I can see in my plastic crystal ball that the Iranians have not slowed down their ICBM missile program either. And again, I hate to be like this. You know damn good and well Iran, as soon as they have an operational nuclear bomb that can sit on top of one of their ICBMs, it's going to be headed for Israel. And if it's launched and heads anywhere near Israel, and hopefully our Patriot missile batteries will be able to knock it down, then the Iranians are going to receive Israeli nuclear bombs. Because don't forget, Israel has nuclear capability, and they have nuclear bombs, and they're on ICBMs, or they're on theater missiles. And they will get through. You can bet your bottom dollar Israel will get their nuclear missiles into Iran. And then after that, who knows what's going to happen. I mean, I have some ideas, but I don't see how it's not going to happen. And here's Obama. What's he doing, man? Hey, you guys, we want you to stop making those nuclear bombs, and we're going to reduce sanctions so your economy can get back on track. Not good. Appeasement. Obama is an appeaser. Okay, God, I hope this... Oh, here's a video. Now, I got this from my friend Julia Green. And I don't know where she got this from, but this is going to be interesting. And it says, humans, the Earth's parasite. So if you are a parasite, according to this article, you are a parasite. You know, and I wrote on this, I said that during the 70s, before journalism, science, and education were completely co-opted by the progressive socialist statist government, we all learned that there is no way mankind could destroy Earth, even if they wanted to or if they tried. And that's what we learned in the 70s. And it was all over the place because people were wondering, you know, when we're in that Cold War, well, what would happen if there was actually an exchange, and people talked about it. And basically with the amount of armament we had and Russia had, and then if China got into it, you know, what would happen if we had an actual World War III with nuclear bombs, and there was a lot of interest to try and understand, you know, what would that look like. And scientists weighed in on it from every corner of the scientific community, and basically they said that the main population centers would be wiped out for the most part, that New York, Chicago, San Francisco, and so on, that the major cities, that there definitely would be a lot of the major cities would be taken out, and the major cities like Denver that had a high concentration of federal employees, you could guarantee that Denver would be taken out. Now, Salt Lake City may not be taken out, as an example, or, you know, those are targeting decisions that Russia would have made. But basically they said that most likely that there would be an exchange. If there was an exchange, they would take out a few of our cities, we would take out a few of theirs, and then we would stop. It wouldn't escalate beyond that, because, you know, the people would finally realize, oh my God, this is insanity. And there would be fallout, nuclear fallout, and areas would be no-go zones for a while, but, you know, life would basically would return back to normal. But it begs the question, okay, what about the worst scenario, if everybody just let their bombs go, all of them? And the discussion came to the point that no matter what man did, if they released all their nuclear bombs, that would not destroy the earth. And that people really underestimate the size of the earth, the vastness of the earth, the overall health of the earth, and that it would be absolutely, positively impossible for man to destroy planet Earth. Man would be destroyed before planet Earth. And that's how people talked in the 70s. And now, here we are with all these environmentalists, like the Native American woman said, the environmentalists are supported by the government, you know. And here's another example of that, you know, here's this group, and I'm sure they're a nonprofit 501c, and they're trying to give people the impression that they're parasites, which is just another way to eventually devalue the worth of an individual, so that we're more likely to accept more and more government intrusion upon our life. I mean, why not? We're parasites. All right, let's listen to this video. I got a feeling this is going to be kind of interesting. And again, I got this from my friend Julia Green. All right, it's only a minute long.
Our Earth, healthy, strong, and full of life. But wait, what's that you've got there? It looks like you've got a case of the humans. To be a healthy Earth, all of your elements must be in equilibrium. However, these parasites slaughter all other forms of life. Guzzle your natural resources.
And this is a cartoon, this video is a cartoon, and you missed the human being is portrayed as this black monster with a machete in their hand, walking through the forest, chopping off all the heads of all the little animals, and blood all over, decapitating the animals. I mean, this is a perfect example of, I'll think of it.
And poison your atmosphere. Once contracted, humans act quickly. They multiply over 300,000 a day, consuming anything that crosses their path. Earth is just the start. Who knows what's next?
They're going to go off and ruin other planets. Brought to you by 4 Legs. And, you know, I mean, it's done in a comical style, and it's meant for all ages, but, I mean, it's disinformation, it's propaganda, it's kind of scary, really. I mean, in hell, all they got to do is affect a few people, because we're being inundated, barraged, flooded with this kind of earth first kind of stuff. So this is just another brick in the wall. But this woman, my friend Julia Green, I mean, that's what she thinks, you know. Humans in a way are parasites. And that just devalues them and gives more reason for the government to step in and tell humans what to do, because, you know, they're parasites. God, I mean, they shouldn't have any inalienable rights, for Christ's sake. And my friend Pete Smith of this on this subject says, I guess it's indeed pretty hard to destroy Earth, but to destroy the conditions making it fit for human life is not that hard. See, I disagree. I don't think, you know, it doesn't matter what I think. I'm just talking to you. We're giving you information. You got to decide. We report, you decide. Okay, here's an article here from America Overlook. The cost of college education in the United States has skyrocketed over the last 15 to 20 years, and more of our young adults are starting their lives drowning in student loan debt. Instead of helping American citizens, President Obama has decided to send 20 million of our dollars to Indonesia. And he's given $20 million to Muslims to help them pay their college costs. And, you know, it might be kind of small beans, but I mean, if you have to borrow, what is it, the national debt in this budget cycle, they're going to have to borrow probably $700 billion. If we have to borrow that kind of money, we don't have $20 million extra to give to Muslim students in Indochina or wherever the hell this was. I think that's the point. Okay, here we go. Climate change again. From two unusually candid global warming academics own pens, it is okay to lie about climate. The title of the study they published is Information Manipulation and Climate Agreements. And this is mind-blowing. This is just a little excerpt. Share the facts from the CFA CT President David Rothbard. Quote, global warming skeptics have long charged that the alarmists are overhyping the dangers of climate change. Now comes a new paper from two economists in Singapore and Hong Kong that actually advocates exaggerating global warming fears to get countries on board international environmental agreements. See how everything is connected? How their status. According to Kevin Glass at townhall.com, the paper claims that the urgency of climate change makes it okay to deceive the public about the projected consequences of global warming. They don't actually use the word lying, but by calling for informational manipulation and exaggeration, they certainly think the ends justify these very questionable and overheated means. And they ask the question, do you think it's okay to lie about climate science and exaggerate natural weather events if it helps the UN obtain international climate treaty in Paris? And it shows pictures of these two individuals that came up with the need that we need to find that informational manipulation has a instrumental value as it. And, oh, you can go see this at cfac.org. But, you know, I mean, this environmental movement is huge. But, you know, in a way, they're just fascists. And they're using the environment, like they're using the gays, like they're using the lesbians to promote progressive socialist status ideology. Alright, I don't know if this is going to post. Statist, I wish we could get into this. This is interesting. Statist called for drone strike on Bundy supporters, the ranch in Nevada. Statist. See, now we're starting, I'm glad we're starting to see this word. I discovered this word about 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and I include it in a lot of my writings. I like to call the left progressive socialist status. And I think it's important to put labels on these people. That's why progressive socialists don't like labels, because words mean something. And if you believe in something, you are something, and that can be labeled. But according to this, as a federal appeals court rules that the Obama administration must divulge its legal basis for launching drone strikes against American citizens, many statists opposed to Nevada cattle rancher Kelvin Bundy stand against the government are calling for him to use drones domestically. I mean, I didn't even know, well, I guess we've talked a lot about this, come to think of it, but, you know, are we going to have like another Ruby Ridge or another Waco, Texas? Only this time the federal government's going to send in drones. It's just so impersonal. I mean, there's something to a standoff, and I'm not sure I'm big on standoffs. And well, let's just look at Waco. Now, the federal government under Janet Reno went after Waco because there were reports that this whacked out guy in Waco who had his little Christian cult there, that they had arms. And the federal government wanted to go in there and check out their facility because they had reports that they were collecting arms. Well, first off, it's none of the federal government's damn business. And I can't remember the guy in Waco, the preacher, but at any rate, the federal government ended up setting the place on fire, and a lot of people died. A lot of children died. But the whole thing is that I don't think the federal government had any right to know what was in that building. And I think we have a right, a constitutionally guaranteed right, to stockpile arms. And if they didn't have any real actual proof, which I don't think they did other than secondhand proof, then the government didn't have any business being there. But I think that the Waco case is one of those test cases that the federal government can use in the future to say, well, you know, we did it at Waco, so we did it to this rancher in Nevada. Only this time we did it with a drone. That's a precedent. White House uses Justin Bieber to push immigration reform. Can you believe this? We did a story on Monday that the White House was requested by over 100,000 people to deport Justin Bieber. And the White House said that if they ever got a petition and 100,000 people or more signed it, that they would answer the petition. Well, they didn't do that for Justin Bieber. We reported on that Monday. And now they're using Justin Bieber in a immigration reform bill. You know, it's like he's part of the family now there at the Obama White House. He's going to get special privileged. He doesn't get scrutinized. And Justin Bieber's a prick. And the reason people are mad because he was down in Florida and he rented a Lamborghini or something and he was out street racing, drunk. If I did that, I would still be in jail because I'm a Republican. You know, if I did that in Swatch where I'm known and the sheriff's a Democrat, you can bet your bottom dollar I'd still be in jail. even if I did have money. Okay, CARE, which is, what is CARE? The Council on American Islamic Relations, claims opposing school textbooks that favor Islam over Christianity is anti-Muslim bias. Can you believe that? I mean, these Muslims are going to get their tentacles into every aspect of our life. And this is out of Tallahassee, Florida, AP report. A Muslim activist group says a bill that would require the state school districts to review textbooks used in classrooms creates an unfunded mandate and opens the door to, I don't know what the rest of it says, but you know, you see stories like this almost daily about Islam using our court system, and they're using our schools as a way to get into our courtrooms. And they're basically saying that they're not going to adhere to our basic curriculum in schools. But here, you know, any textbook that doesn't favor Islam over Christianity is anti-Muslim bias. I mean, they want in our curriculum that Islam's better than Christianity. That's rather profound. They're making the demand. I mean, these people are serious. We got stories like this all over the place, all over the country. Now, this story, if you want to check it out, is on weasel zippers. And I have every reason to trust weasel zippers because I've seen other stories like this where CARE and other Islamic groups are trying to force their will onto our public school system. And I don't like it. Let's go to Drudge, see if we have any trending news. Oh, Harry Reid said something will happen to stop Bundy. Back to the Bundy story. That's trending. Battle lines harden in Nevada. Texas AG warns BLM stay out. Wow, man. I mean, that's big medicine when a U.S. Senator is saying, not only is he calling the Bundys terrorists, but now he's saying something will happen to stop the rancher. I mean, he knows what's going on, obviously. Nothing much there. Oh, man. According to the cops, I don't know where this was, a teen hid a loaded revolver in her vagina. What? I mean, what kind of household is that? I mean, that'd be the last place I'd want to put a gun. Yikes. NYPD backfires as Twitter uses share photos of police brutality. This is going to be a really big issue. A lot of stories about whether or not you have a right to video police. There's various proposals in different state houses across the union, and the police are saying that you, as a citizen, do not have a right to video the activity of a policeman. And I say just the exact opposite. Because eventually we're going to have cameras on us 24/7. You know, it's going to be like a little pin that you put on your lapel or in your hat. And boy, oh boy, if we don't have a right to film where we are, video where we are, or what's going on a public street with our policemen, if they try to take that away from us, it is over, Rover, if we're not already in a police state already. Oh, Brazil conference will plot internet's future post NSA spying. Man, there's articles out there that really bother me about the Obama administration turning over the internet to the UN. Let's hope that doesn't happen. I've tried to get to the bottom of that story, but it's kind of hard to do that. Oh, God, this was embarrassing. The State Department our federal State Department can't name one accomplishment from Hillary-run initiative during the time Hillary Clinton was our head at the State Department. I saw this interview. I wonder if I can get it to post. It was really embarrassing. I mean, a reporter was asking this spokesman for the State Department to give him one example of an accomplishment of the Hillary State House, and this poor girl couldn't come up with one thing. I mean, I could come up with something. I would say, well, of course, our relationships across the world have improved, and a good example of that is, pick the country, fill in the blank. I mean, this poor girl couldn't come up with one accomplishment. And it was kind of embarrassing for her, although she took the tack that she felt that the question was inappropriate. And that, in my mind, made her look even more ridiculous. But God almighty, you can't come up with one initiative that Hillary did that was a signal or an accomplishment of her administration. And actually, there probably isn't anything to point to, but holy mackerel. You would think you could come up with something, but this little spokesperson wasn't able to do that. Okay, here, back to the Bundy Ranch. This came from RPT, Chinese solar company with ties to Harry Reid's son, wants Bundy land. Now, this is Lou Dobbs reporting on Fox. He did a story about this, so let's hear what Lou has to say, because if this is the whole deal, this is exactly what that Native American woman was saying. They want to take land away from private owners and give it to corporations. Because again, like she said, the environmentalists are supported by the government. All right, take it away, Lou. Lou Dobbs, where are you, bro? This will be a good story. Special report, Lou Dobbs.
This is Lou Dobbs Tonight.
Good evening, everybody. A dramatic withdrawal by the federal government after meeting armed and determined resistance by Nevada rancher Cliven Bundy, his family, friends, hundreds of supporters from neighboring states. But this is more than a simple story of a Western rancher standing up against an abuse of power and use of overwhelming force by the federal government. And it's certainly not about the federal government's stewardship of Western lands and the preservation of wildlife on the high desert. In this instance, merely doing what it must to protect a tortoise, one, it turns out, isn't endangered, and one which the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has admitted to euthanizing. The cowboys in Freedom won this weekend, and the coercive and overreaching federal bureaucrats were forced to turn tail. Why has the most powerful man in the United States Senate, however, Majority Leader Harry Reid and his son Rory, who failed in the bid for the Nevada governorship, involved themselves in this effort to crush one individual citizen? There are reports tonight that Chinese energy giant ENN Energy Group is actively targeting the land in question for a solar plant project, with Roy Reid's help. And the principal director of the Bureau of Federal Land Management, the bureaucracy at the center of this conflict, is Harry Reid's former senior policy advisor. We turn now to Fox News correspondent William Lajeunesse, live on the ground in Bunkerville, Nevada, with the latest for us. William.
The Bureau of Land Management's problems began Thursday after this video hit YouTube. Reaction was swift. Self-described patriots and hundreds of armed militia members began streaming into Bunkerville, Nevada.
We care about our country, we care about our land, we care about our fellow countrymen.
Answering the call of 67-year-old Cliven Bundy.
Get the hell out of here, federal government.
Bundy's family has ranched here since the 1880s, giving him grazing rights he claims predate and preempt federal authority established here in 1934.
Our United States government thinks they can
rule in a state of Nevada, Clark County, with unlimited power.
So in 1994, when BLM listed the desert tortoise as endangered and withdrew his grazing rights, Bundy refused to comply, losing court appeals 3 times. Last week, federal agents executed a court order, rounding up nearly 400 cows. That's when things got heated. Bundy supporters closed a freeway and attempted to free his cattle from federal holding pens, using 36 cowboys on horseback, backed up by militia in firing positions.
You read the Second Amendment, it's not just about guns. It starts out a well-regulated militia for the security of a free state.
Yeah.
Is that not what happened yesterday?
After a 30-minute standoff, the feds released the cows.
Those cattle are ours. They're Cliven Bundy's family's cattle. And they stole them from us.
The roundup by helicopter separated day-old calves from their mothers. 18 orphans as of Monday.
They were drawn up. They were obviously they hadn't had any milk to drink from their mothers in several days.
I'm not willing to pay the feds.
As the last rancher in Clark County, Bundy claims the feds are using the tortoise as a ruse to force he and others off public land to make room for the Dry Lake Solar Zone, adjacent to Bundy's grazeland. Critics call it more than a coincidence. The new BLM director is a former policy advisor to Senator Harry Reid. And Reid endorsed the judge who originally ruled against Bundy for a seat on the U.S. Supreme Court, while Reid's son Rory is a lobbyist for a Chinese energy giant, ENN, which proposed building a $5 million solar plant in Clark County. So here's the irony. Turtles and solar also don't mix, according to environmentalists who are suing the BLM for approving solar permits in tortoise habitats, threatening the very species they're claiming to try to save. Now, the BLM still considers Bundy an outlaw and a deadbeat, and say they will go after him in the courts. Now, Senator Harry Reid said late today that this is not over, and that Cliven Bundy should not be permitted to break the law. Lou?
Well, thank you very much. And, of course, no one, whether they hold elected office or are private citizens, should be above the law. Our first guest tonight says rancher Cliven Bundy's problem isn't that he didn't pay user fees or fines. It has nothing to do with whether his cattle were bothering tortoises. It's simply that he's not a Harry Reid donor. Joining us tonight, Dana LaLoche, conservative radio talk show host, anchor of the Dana Show on the Blaze TV network. Dana, good to have you with us. You've been following this story. I mean, these relationships amongst Senator Reid, his son Rory, the federal government, even Governor Sandoval has been to China to glad hand with the ENN Group's executives. What is going on here?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it, Lou? If there wasn't this sort of incestuous relationship between all of these donors and these individuals that had worked with Senator Reid, I think it would be fair to say that there's probably nothing going on here. But unfortunately, there's precedence which states otherwise. We know for a fact that there are a number of projects of Harry Reid donors that have received the golden stamp of approval from the Bureau of Land Management in this same particular area. One of those, and I gave example of that on air, was Harvey Whitmore, and this guy was convicted of illegal campaign contributions by the tens of thousands of dollars to Harry Reid. He had a development that was in this same area. The tortoise, that desert tortoise, was in the way, and very conveniently, Senator Harry Reid, after he reportedly approached the senator, the Bureau of Land Management just very conveniently moved the boundary lines of the tortoise habitat to better accommodate Harvey Whitmore, who again was convicted of illegal campaign contributions to Senator Harry Reid. So you have to ask the question, the law is the law, and I think we all agree on that, but it needs to be consistently applied, because what is the law if it is inconsistently applied? And what is the law as well if this is a law that is sort of based upon a bastardization of what constitutional law and what state law is dictating regarding private property? And so these are all questions that are finally coming up, because it's not just Nevada, Lou. There's this situation that's unfolding in New Mexico. We have a situation.
We have a caller.
In Colorado. We're seeing the same thing in Utah.
Hang on, caller.
It is kind of the battle of the West.
It is a battle of the West, a classic struggle, and what we're also watching here is, without question whatsoever, when you bring 200 federal agents and...
Hey, we're going to interrupt Lou. We got a caller. Now let's see. All right, we got a caller. Hi, caller. This is Daniel Gray, the Trailer Park Prophet. Can you hear me? Might be it. Hi, caller. This is Daniel Gray.
Oh, yeah, it's just unmuted by itself. I'm just listening. But I'm glad you gave a good review of the Bundy ranch, because I was trying to get my brain wrapped around what was going on over there.
You know, I'm having the same trouble. It's a big issue, and it has a lot of moving parts that involve Harry Reid. And I mean, what do you think of the whole deal?
Well, from the little bit that I know about it, it seems like, as always, there's something deeper beneath the surface that's actually going on, other than just failure to pay grazing fees or what have you. So I'm not really sure. I mean, I do know what, the government is notorious for taking private property. And so I'm just trying to figure out exactly, what's going on. Is that the case or not? The public I've seen on the news, unfortunately I haven't been able to go on the internet to find anything on YouTube, but what I've seen on the news don't really give you a good idea as to what's really going on.
What? I'm sorry, what was your name?
Oh, David.
Oh, David.
This is David, yeah.
Okay, yeah, David. Have you been watching the mainstream media at all? Have you seen any reports?
No, actually, I just seen a few of it. I just kind of tuned into this issue maybe a week or so ago.
Uh-huh.
And I know it's taken place before that, but I've just started to tune into it about a week or so ago. So I'm still trying to figure it out.
Well, one thing I've been talking about, I live in the mountains in Colorado, and you go out on any mountain road now, and any dirt road, you'll see truck after truck of government after government agency out there in the forest anymore. You have the wildlife patrol, you've got the Forest Service, you got BLM. I mean, I can think of 5 different agencies in Gunnison County alone, federal agencies that have armed officers out in the same forest. Have you ever seen that, David?
I've seen it before, not to that degree. I'm here in California in the big city.
Uh-huh.
But I've seen it before.
Well, I mean, it's amazing, and we're having a big battle in Gunnison and other places in Colorado where the government officials want to close down roads, access into these forests.
Oh, wow. And why would they do that?
Well,
What's the reason for that?
Well, they have a lot of reasons. They'll say that, it could be an unauthorized road, or they'll say that the road's tearing up the plant life, or it's scaring the migration or the mating habits of this animal or that animal. And we have this one sage grouse, and it has its own government funding from Gunnison County, and has its own lawyer and its own board of directors, and they're trying to get endangered species, even though the species is proliferating, and they want to reduce access and usage. But it's the same kind of thing as a Bundy. It's the environmentalists that are pushing the agenda, get all the attention, and it's basically to push people and animals off the land.
So I'm wondering if the end goal is to lease the land to the Chinese or some solar company. I mean, I can believe that that's probably the end game, trying to change the use of the land. Who owns the land in the first place is what I feel kind of confused about.
Well, I read a chronological, historical accounting of this disputed land, and it is BLM land, all right, but it was something before BLM. It would have been just owned by the federal government, because most of Nevada is owned by the federal government. and people were allowed to graze on it like the Bundys. I mean, they go back to 1885 was when they first started using that land to graze. And I imagine I don't think there was any regulation other than you can use the land and you have to make improvements to it and not destroy it, was the basic understanding. And then I believe in 1920, then the BLM came along and then came up with the idea that these ranchers needed to also start paying grazing fees, which I think the Bundys did for a while, and then the government started putting more and more pressure on them to do other things, and they eventually decided not to pay their grazing fees. That's kind of the basic thumbnail.
Oh, okay. Now, I'm wondering, how did the federal government, before the Bureau had the land, the federal government just had the land, how did the federal government acquire, quote-unquote, acquire the land?
Oh, interesting question. You know,
I'm sure it's pretty much like the Louisiana Purchase, where they, quote-unquote, purchased the land.
But how did it all become... Yeah, because you know most of the West is owned by the federal government. Did you know that? Well, no, let me... Okay, actually, I did a piece on this. You know, like Nevada's like 85% federal government. Colorado was like 43%. California, I think, was 43%. The average is in the West about 50%. Now, the rest of the country, the average is like 2%, 3%, 5%. So the question you ask is an excellent question. How was it that the federal government ended up with this land to begin with? And I don't know definitively, David, but I imagine it had to be divided up in legislation. There's probably a number of bills that ran through Congress back in the 1800s, 1900s that said, okay, this is federal, this land will be available for the public, for private. I mean,
when did they inquire under the doctrine of conquest, discovery, and conquest?
Well, that would have been because of the Spanish-American War and part of the Louisiana Purchase, and then I believe we bought Oregon and Washington from Russia when we bought Alaska. But we would, yeah, right. I mean, the Spanish-American War, that's how we ended up with Texas, New Mexico, California, Colorado, Utah. We won that in the Spanish-American War. That's why the radical nationalist Latinos are using racism, because they feel like Mexico deserves to have that land back that we won in the Spanish-American War. A lot of people don't understand that a lot of the radical Latinos are nationalists. Have you ever... Yeah, David, have you ever run into La Raza?
I've heard of them, but I'm not that familiar with them. I know it stands for the race or something about the meaning of race.
Yeah, the race.
I'm not that familiar with them.
Yeah, the race. And they're classically using racism as a way to promote their own nationalism. And they've cleaned up their act a lot, and a lot of that load that La Raza was carrying early on is being carried by any number of radical nationalist groups who were Latino and using that as racism and as a wedge against, people like you and me. I mean, you understand that, don't you? That, same thing in the gay community. I mean, there's two types of gays. There's gays that just want to have their life and live in their house with their significant other, and they want to stay out of or stay off the public square. And then you have the radical gays, the fanatical ones, and they're basically using their sexuality to promote progressive socialism, statism. I mean, that's my feeling. What do you think, David?
You know, I'm not that versed on the issue. For me, it would always be I'm always just interested in how land was acquired. I know sometimes people say that, a piece of land was purchased, but I also know that, you can purchase a piece of land, under the bearer of a gun, and you have the correct signature, but you don't have what they call meeting of the mind, in order to have a valid contract. But on paper, it would seem as if you would have a valid contract. So I'm always interested in how these land grants and grants came about and how they was taken, or maybe they wasn't taken, maybe they were stolen from the indigenous native people. And I'm always of the opinion that just because you have the biggest gun and you're able to coerce population into signing an agreement that will give you the land, that does not make the land.
Well, here again, the Native Americans were America's first real estate agents. A lot of land in the East was loosely controlled by a network of tribes, and a lot of times the Pilgrims bought land from tribes. And once you think about America and early America in terms of what you're not hearing from the lamestream media, and that is that a lot of that land was bought from tribes by either the government or by individuals. And as far as the Plains Indians, I mean, they were nomadic. They were nomadic. And there was vast expanses of land that to claim as theirs, I think that's a stretch. And I think that it was inevitable. Had it not been the Pilgrims, it would have been the Spaniards. I mean, look what the Spaniards did. They were pretty brutal. And I'm saying that, again, I mean, the Native Americans were the first real estate agents in America. I mean, I'm sure. What do you think, David?
Well, usually about it from that standpoint, I always thought about that the land belongs to the people, and the land is here for the benefit of the people. That no one in particular owns the land, except the Almighty. Obviously, we have people who occupy them, and are stewards of the land. I just get kind of concerned when anyone claims that they have exclusive right to the land, especially when those people happen to be a government and not the actual people.
Well, David, what the area you're going into is excellent, and basically it's what we're talking about, whether or not land should be privately owned or not. I mean, a lot of this stuff we get into, we make it complicated and add too much detail, but you brought up the point about, well, who owns the land? And that's the debate we're having every day. Now, I'm of the mind that we're better served if there is private ownership of land. Now, the communists and the socialists, or primarily the communists, they would rather have the government own all the land. And I don't think, in my opinion, communists can't run an economy. They can't take care of the land like they do in the private sector. I think that land ownership is important to the development of a society. And that's really what it is. I mean, you either believe in one form or another form. You either believe in the government is a better steward of the land, or you believe that individuals are a better steward of the land. And that's an important question. You should probably ask somebody, if you were going to marry him, how they felt about that exact question. That's a big question, David. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm going in and out because I'm going to a building. Okay, well, that's something for me to ponder. I'm going to be keeping more closely watch on the Bundy. Is it called Bundy Ranch?
Yeah, his name is Bundy.
Like Al Bundy. Okay.
Like Al Bundy. Yeah, I was trying to think of his first name. It's like Clevin, or it's Clevin, I believe it is. And funny though, the town that he's near is Bunkerville. Like a bunker. I don't know what. I just found that so funny, you know. Bunkerville. How ironic. But did you hear that one report from Lou Dobbs? Did you hear the?
That was my first time hearing it on your show.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, you know, this story the plot keeps thickening and thickening in this story. I find it a very fascinating story. And did you hear what Glenn Beck said? Glenn Beck, you know, he said, and I said this too, I actually said this before Glenn Beck, I think that the Patriots better be careful that this is a good test case, this Bundy case, because it's still kind of rubs me the wrong way that Bundy's behind on his grazing fees by $1 million. You know, that's kind of a big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that seems, it seems like it's a big, depending on the issues involved, and sometimes you have to withhold the funding until the disputes are settled. Because oftentimes what happens is you pay your quote-unquote bill, and there's a dispute, and once the dispute is over, you can't get your money back.
Okay, right. Good point. And the thing...
And they force you to sue them, just like a lot of taxing agencies, you're forced to sue them, which means you are the plaintiff.
Right.
And you have to prove that they were in the wrong.
Oh, okay, right. And you know what? There's been two court cases that the Bundys have gone through the whole process, and the Bundys have been found, I hate to say guilty, but what's the word I'm looking for? But they've lost 2 court cases. The Bundys have reportedly have lost 2 court cases.
Oh wow!
But we don't know.
Oh, these folks are ready for this little powwow.
60 seconds.
I'm going to be cut off.
All right, bud. I got to get out of here, too. The show's over, David. Thanks a lot for calling in.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Bye, David. All right, everybody. God, I finally caught a caller. There's only 9 seconds left. It was just so great to have David on the line, and I actually got him. All right, everybody, we'll see you on Friday for Local Friday. We're going to have a really good show for you. I already have a couple of stories in mind. All right, everybody, have any kind of day you want. Keep it classy. You know who loves you. Maybe you don't.
10 seconds.